Okay, great, good. So we have everybody back in. As you can see, I'm monitoring for a minor flood that may or may not happen. So if I have to rush off again, please understand, all right? So the galvanize is okay. It's just the drains seem to be backed up a little bit, so I will be monitoring that. All right. Hope you guys can understand that we live in a tropical country that has periods of rain like this. So, all right. So let's go. Why are we measuring? Why are we measuring for our balance scorecard? Of course, to determine how efficient and effectively the process or service satisfies the customer, to identify improvement opportunities, to make decisions on fact and data. Very, very, very important information here. Always make decisions that are fact-based, that are data-based, and there is one thing as well. As an entrepreneur, there is something called intuition. Entrepreneurial intuition. That's the that's the gut. You would hear if you do management later on your MBA, etc. You'd hear about that gut feeling, that gut vibe, internal um, that internal direction that is telling you to do something in a certain way. Sometimes it's against data, sometimes it's against fact, and this is where um, entrepreneurial endeavors, are derived from, because it's about the person who's taking risk for a certain objective, for a certain outcome. And you're saying higher risk. Finish this to me. Higher risk. Higher risk leads to what? Higher risk leads to greater rewards. That's correct. Yes, Katrina. Higher risk is higher reward. So I'm just saying that in the context of the lecture that said to make decisions based on fact and data. I'm saying yes, for sure, absolutely for sure, but do not ignore your entrepreneurial intuition, your inside gut, your internal conversation. All right? Measurements should translate customer goals, expectations, sorry, into goals. Whether the customer wants more of a product, whether the customer wants a better price on a product, whether the customer wants to do things perhaps a bit faster, whether the customer wants you to provide an additional service for them. Evaluate the quality of your process, track your improvement, focus on your customers. I remember one of my lecturers, several years ago, actually more than a decade ago. So I did my master's more than 10 years ago. And he he said to us, all organizations, all for-profit organizations especially, should develop their processes around the customer. Meaning, this is your customer that wants this, so you do a crisis, and you now create a business that is around the customer. So that the customer easy access to touch any part of your business, which will of course translate into for your organization. So build and design your business with the customer in mind. That's what he said. This is Mr. Um, Lennox Seeley. I have to call his name because for me he was a very great lecturer. He taught us leadership. He taught us some many things, and he's a local guy. Um, and he said, always build your organization with the customer in mind. Now, can you imagine? Now, this is for instance, but can you imagine if you were to create your government agencies with the citizens in mind? with the citizens thinking I'm getting easy access to stuff. Similarly, if you prepare your community business or your small business with the customer in mind, ensuring that you do have first of all a customer niche or market base that you are targeting, and you build your business around it, you are bound for success. All right, so just keep that in mind. um, right, so Forrest Gump said if you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there. I mean, that's as simple as you can get it. You need to have some targets, and we've been talking about in these management classes over the last 3.5 4 weeks, sorry, about planning, knowing where you want to go, talking about grand visions, grand but simple, talking about mission statements. So you need to know where you want to go. Right. Good targets set for all measures. They must have a solid basis. Give personnel something from which to aim. So you give your staff a target. You must give them a target that you want them to reach for. Um, and of course, if you achieve those things, it will transform your organization. Um, Careful not to develop targets to develop measures and targets in a fragmented approach. Right? Right. So, and the example there, if you want to increase customer satisfaction, you must be able to do that with perhaps a newly trained staff or a different operations procedure to ensure that customer satisfaction is improved. All right. So understand that it must be a complete approach, and your initiatives right, well, initiatives once measures and targets are established, the management is now responsible for how the organization will achieve its goals. The leadership team develops the vision, strategy, and goals, develops objectives and targets, provides leadership endorsement and vision for the project, and clears away barriers to scorecard progress. As the leader, as the leader of your team, all of these things are important, and all of this is where the management will comes in. You need to have the will to clear away the barriers that may have been there before, that you maybe would have been part of the status quo. You just remember management. Let me put it in here. Management will may challenge the status quo, the things that have been standard, things that you are accustomed to, things that you'll be like, now we don't normally do this. Suddenly that becomes a phrase that you don't use. Now we don't normally do this. So no, that's not what we do. Those things now change, and that change comes from top, right? To challenge the status quo, to challenge how things are normally done. Sometimes it requires, and I'm going to put in another term here. At times require paradigm shift in thinking. So all of these things are important as the leader of your team, as the person who is leading the drive. You must execute on management will and executive will to get these things done. All right. So in summary, the balance scorecard is a living document. It always asks how are we doing? Are we measuring the right things? What initiatives do we need to get us to, and where do we want to go? Did our organizational goals change? And sometimes that might be a fact, right? Sometimes your organization can indeed change its goals and its objectives depending on the situation, depending on the the the, the position it finds itself in as a result of a changing economy, a changing climate, a change international events. All of these things now can change your organization's goals. And I just want to draw a reference to some of you that there are some companies that have may have started, and I think I mentioned this example already. Some companies may have started. We are pharmacy, so we'll use a drug, right? And we know of this all the time. This the company called that now markets Viagra for erectile dysfunction. Initially, this was a drug which was sildenafil. And what was sildenafil initially used for? Come on, guys, make Dr. Ignacio and Dr. Janki proud, please. Sildenafil, initially, we know what it's marketed for now, but initially, what was it used for, and what is still actually current use in some pediatric patients? Yes, the heart, and it helps to reduce the workload on the heart. It helps to alter blood pressure, and especially in pediatric patients, it's still being used. However, it was found that these patients who were using this drug had some other benefits that the company, in its wisdom, Pfizer, started now to market itself on that additional benefit. All right? And we can use another one, aspirin. Aspirin was initially used for, what was aspirin initially used for? The Americans love aspirin. They always want aspirin. What is aspirin used for, Leandra? Pain, yes, right? It's an NSAID, right? It's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. And it was observed in many persons who use aspirin regularly that what was happening? What was found? Well, remember, guys and gals or ladies, when we use the word blood thinner, a blood thinner is essentially a fibrinolytic agent, something that breaks up clots. Now, aspirin. Now, I don't want to be challenging what you all learn already, but you need to get it right. Does aspirin indeed break up clots? Faria, Leandra, Biana, bleeding. Biana, where that come from? Yes, I know it's relevant, but I don't know if you're jumping the gun here with respect to side effects. Oh, everybody freeze up on me, so. Leandra, Faria, you're using the word blood thinner. Is it indeed a blood thinner? It interferes with the clotting mechanism. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yes. So I know from my days, I don't know if Dr. Janki is if he is um far more updated than I am, but I think that aspirin was uh, inflammation, anti-inflammatory drug. Yes, aspirin prevented the formation of blood clots. It interferes with the clotting mechanism. Yes, and a blood thinner, an antiplatelet. Correct. So Samantha C is correct. It being an antiplatelet. So I know the common term is blood thinner, right? But blood thinners really are those that affect the the um, the amount of clots that are in your blood correctly. So you're talking about things like warfarin, things like Xarelto, which is rivaroxaban, those things, right? But that's a side note. So it was used for pain, and then it was found to affect the clotting mechanism. and it was found to have an improvement in cardiac risk in patients who use it regularly. And now aspirin at a particular dose is heavily marketed, if not solely marketed, for cardiac risk reduction. I'm saying this to impress upon you that sometimes your organization's goals would change, and sometimes your target market is going to change as well. So the balanced scorecard is a living document, um, and it's a very good tool to use. You may even find yourself using this tool without even being aware that you've been using the tool. All right, so that's balanced scorecard. That's Dr. Miraj's lecture, and I'm going to just use mine as a quick summary to go through balanced scorecard. Any questions so far? Maybe let me invite some questions. Leandra, I like how you and Faria just leave them out there asking, ask the question and no answer. Right, so my PowerPoint is going to take us to perhaps about 9:50, and then we'll end for today and then wait for institutional. Any questions, any queries before I do mine? So my lecture is the balanced scorecard in a PowerPoint that has a purple background. All right. You didn't know the answer? Well, I hope you all know now, right? And you can talk to Dr. Janki about it, and he will be able to. I'm assuming you all did this already because you're in year four. So there is a distinction between what is a traditional blood thinner, what actually can alter the viscosity and the precipitates found in blood, versus an anti, which is which is versus an antiplatelet. So what we are comparing there is antiplatelet versus anticoagulant. All right. So there's those two differences. Okay. So let me just go. Let's just do my lecture. The purple background. You all could start and follow with me. Balanced scorecard again. It's a way of looking at your organization that focuses on the big picture strategic goals, helps you choose the right things to measure so that you can reach those goals. So balanced scorecard is based on strategic objectives and strategic goals. What are your strategic goals? So you are using a balanced scorecard perhaps to start off your organization, or perhaps in the middle of operation of your organization to see how you are performing and how you are functioning. All right. Traditionally, or many small businesses in particular, they just want to know they're making money, they're making money, they're making money. But that's not all, because if you just look at making money alone, you may be looking at your organization from a short term, and from a more long-term perspective, you may get left out. And it has happened with many people who don't look at their strategies from a long-term perspective as well. They only focus on the short term, and as a result, they only last for a short term. It gives a balanced view. It focuses on both high-level strategy and low-level measures that sets the balanced scorecard apart from other performance management methodologies. It takes your big fuzzy vision and breaks it down into specific actionable steps to take on a day-to-day basis. And the four perspectives that we look at, we did it just now: learning and growth, internal business process, customer, and finally financial. Okay. And if you want, you could look at it from this perspective here that I have put on slide number 6, as your vision and strategy being at the center of it all. And then you have four sides, or we can call them four corners if you want, that now provide a balanced view of the organization, right? It provides a balanced view, and you see arrows that, connect all of them with each other. So the learning and growth, we did this. It talks about your industry trends, using technology to develop your staff, to develop your systems, to ensure that you are continuously learning and growing. You are taking advantage of training opportunities. You are giving your staff training opportunities. You are removing bureaucracy in your organization. And again, technology plays a huge part in moving your company and your capacity from an analog mechanized base to one that is more technology based. All right. And this speaks to the budget, that the budget spoke about the digital economy and transitioning into a digital economy from a more mechanized analog based economy. Right. And next we have internal business processes. Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. Again, that's the main thing about internal business processes. Yes, it's going to look at as well the human resource component who's operating your internal business process, because they are the ones who are turning the wheel, if you want to imagine it. Your staff are the ones who are operating the machine, and they need to be happy, they need to be comfortable, and they need to do whatever is needed to become more efficient. They need to understand that they want to feel part of this process as well. They are part of something grand. They are perhaps they have meaning to their job. All right. If your staff understands the role that they have in your community, providing in the world class pharmaceutical services in your community, they will now be inclined to learn and grow, and they will now inclined to be more efficient at what they do. If you make them feel and touch and know that what they do affects their own family, their friends' family, their relatives' family, their in-laws' family, it's going to help grow their community. They are now going to be more inclined to be more efficient at their business processes. You all do have that PowerPoint? I'm here, and look at me talking away here. All right. Email address, somebody? Okay, okay, I got the point. Email address. Give me your email address. I'll send it now. Email address. No, nobody's giving me your email address, so send me via WhatsApp your email address. If you want to put it up on the chat. So I'll send the letter to somebody. I don't know if Karina is in this class. Is Karina here? And last time I know I sent her stuff. Anybody? Email address, please. Okay, I seen Gita send it. Yeah. So I'm going to send it to Gita. Gita, I hope you can send it to your classmates, right? All right, so are we back on? Leandra, I know you guys asked me if I had something called a WhatsApp web, but I don't. But at least can you just send it in the WhatsApp? But how do I do that? um, Leandra, I don't know how to do that. So forgive me for not having that technological competence. You also said that there was something called WhatsApp web. Oh, you mean if I put it up on email, if I could send, so let me see. What is WhatsApp web? Hold on. I'm sure Gita is going to send it now to everybody, but let me still check. Okay, I'm going to WhatsApp it to you all then. She sent it? Okay. So I don't have to do it over again. All right. All right. Only forgive me, right? I know, you all might be thinking, oh God, you're supposed to, who's Cindy? Oh, I guess Cindy is Gita. Oh, yeah, Cindy's Gita. All right. You all have these strange names. Cindy is, your name on the WhatsApp is Cindy, and your name is Gita, and then Samantha. Samantha Ali had a strange name. All right. So yes. So let's go. So you all have it open now. Um, right. So we can go straight to slide number 8 because that's where we were. Right. So we are on slide number 8, right? Um, right. So I was talking about, you know, the your staff being the ones who are turning the wheel and they being motivated enough to um, want to ensure that your internal business processes are efficient, and then your customer satisfaction, customer and making sure your customers are happy as and that's as basic as you can get, and beyond happy. We have some stages we can say happy, and then beyond happy is delighted, and beyond delighted, customers um, are wowed or 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 loyal, right? So you at the very base level, you want your customers to be happy. At the higher level, you want them to be, you want to exceed that expectation. You want them to be delighted, and then you might want them to be completely wowed by what you do. So um, that's your customer response, ensuring that customer satisfaction is always great. Because if your customers are happy, it's going to directly impact if you make money or not. Clearly, financial, because this is the bread and butter of the situation. You want to make sure your organization is making money, and making money not just in the short term but in the long term as well, as I mentioned earlier. So with the order perspectives, it starts with learning and growth as the foundation, internal business process, customer, and financial. Please remember this order. And I've said this, I've explained this already, that if you have a learning organization that's learning and growing, then you can have better internal business processes. And if you have all of those too, then you will have definitely satisfied customers. And then for sure, your financial perspective will make sense. All right. So strategic objectives for your balance scorecard. Again, it must be metric based, and you see things like reduce injuries, improve call times, increase profits. Um, Very much metric based. And ensure that your strategic objectives, and this goes into a little detail, make sure it starts with a verb, an action word. Um, it's endless, that you are continuously looking on as to consistent improvement. It's actionable. Make sure that it's something that you can actually take action, take action on. It's measurable. Again, these things, these things starting to sound like something you all know, and we're going to say it again ad nauseum. Smart. And here you have the on slide 15, um, what each perspective looks at. Financial looks at reducing costs, increasing profits, increasing revenue in targeted markets. The customer, best customer experience, industrial awareness, increase awareness as an industry leader, internal business process and learning and growth. And the next slide is now going to show you how they're all interrelated. If you look at it, improving internal efficiency, of course, is going to reduce costs. Improving product and service offerings, of course, is going to improve customer experience. Of course, is going to increase awareness as the industry leader. And that now is going to, in turn, lead to increase in revenue in targeted markets. So slide 15 and 16 shows you a nice relationship that you can see with each of them. And this falls directly into line with what I've been saying about do not operate in silos. As a manager, you want to ensure that all of your locations, all of your departments speak to each other, because they do affect each other. All right. So let's just say you had a training and development department, and then you had an operations department, and then you had a customer service department and a financial department. You think all of these now can operate independently of each other? No, this diagram here on slide 16 completely explains how they interact and how they relate with each other. And your measurables, your measurables, your measurables, your measurables. You read through these 4 points and you can see what measurables are like. All right, so that takes us to the end, and you can go to that website and get some more information. But that takes us to the end of Balance Scorecard today. Next week, we will review it again before we go on to our another lecture, which will be the Boston BCG matrix. So I hope everyone today understood the concepts. I invite any questions. queries. We had some excitement with the rain and the potential flooding. Um, so I hope today's lecture was good. I will see some of you in the next hour for institutional, if not most of you. Questions, queries. All right, so if there are no questions, no queries, I thank you all very much for paying attention and participating, and I will see some of you in the next hour. And if not, I'll see balance of you next week, Monday and Tuesday. So have a good day, have a good weekend. Bye. No questions, right? Just want to make sure no questions. All right, so if there are any questions, you all could just WhatsApp me. All right, take care.